good morning, good afternoon, and good night. This is Marv Fikes Jr., and welcome to Become the Podcast. How do you become anything you dream, you declare, you commit, and success as your next breath. Today, we listen to the sounds of my main man, Donny Hathaway. My pops was a DJ. His name was DJ Marvin D. So I'm junior, my pops is senior, and we've always had vinyl all over the place. And so I picked up this Donny Hathaway CD, and there's a song on there, This Christmas, which I used to listen to when I was younger. And I played it, and I had heard someone cover a Donny Hathaway song called This Song For You. And then when I heard Donny Hathaway's version, I fell in love with his voice. I had already fallen in love with the song as a cover. Then I heard the original, and I was set. Once I got this album, and I saw, okay, this Christmas is on that song, and then this Song For You is on this album, and I was hooked, and I became a Donny Hathaway fan. And right before smartphones came out, and I was going to get every Donny Hathaway CD that I could find, and so that's what we listen to today, Donny Hathaway. So on the 25th of January, I'm going to be collaborating with my main man, John Vickers. I call him J Vic. He has a sports performance company business called XPLOSIVE Performance Academy. It's located in Southfield, Michigan. And so we always have a lot of conversation about fulfilling your dreams, fulfillment, and just pressing through and getting through and fighting off the insecurities and the fears and all that other stuff. And so he respects what I do, and I deeply and greatly respect what he does. And so I said, man, let's do something together. So he came up, he said, listen, but what do you want to do? So I said, well, I want to do my visualization stuff with your staff. And so he took it one step further. He says, let's make it into a workshop. Let's bring athletes in and let's turn it into a workshop. So that'll be taking place the 25th of January, which is on a Thursday at 6:30. I'll make sure that, if you're listening, you get, the stuff that you need, to all the information. So what I want to do is just kind of do a brief introduction, or maybe a teaser of what that stuff is about, this visualization process. The actual event will last for 90 minutes, but I'm going to kind of run through this in under 15 minutes. So when we start to think about, when we think about doing something, our mind goes through a series of steps, and the steps are automatic. Before we know it, our mind has probably went to about 3 or 4 steps, and our behavior and our effort after those steps takes place, and before you can even get a hold of it, you're in operation. Either you're running away from it, or either you're running toward it, based upon how your mind functions. And sometimes, if you attack all things, maybe your mind functions in the way that I'm going to speak about already. Without you, it's automatic. You're not conscious of it, but your mind is aggressive in how it processes opportunity. But for some people, before you can even get a hold of it, you're running away from opportunity, and you don't even know why. Like, why am I so apprehensive and so hesitant and so slow to attack the opportunity in itself? And so when we are conscious of this process, we can turn our fears into advantages. But when we are unconscious or unaware of this process, we cripple ourselves and not even knowing why. And oftentimes our mind wants to protect us from all things that are going to be uncomfortable and create stress. So already your mind has this I guess, safety net mechanism where it's always trying to protect you. It's a protection mechanism where it wants to help you avoid uncomfortable situations. And oftentimes it is those uncomfortable situations that, if we embrace them and lean into that discomfort, on the other side of it is absolute bliss. So I'm going to run through the 8 steps with you, give you a brief description of them, how they work, not go into too much detail, because hopefully you'll come visit me at Explosive Performance Academy on the 25th of January. So the first thing that our mind goes, first thing that we do is we wonder. All of us wonder. That's happening whether you want to or not. We're always wondering about something. And the thought that gets the most attention will eventually become a decision. So step one is wonder, right? We all wonder about something. And the more that we wonder about it, eventually it becomes a decision, or at least gets put into the decision pile, right? So the phase two is decision. And this is where you have to decide what it is you want to do. What are you going to be? What do you want to do? How do you want to do it? So on and so forth. But you got to make a decision. And those that get what they want out of life are never... they never waste an opportunity to make a decision, whether it's a 1 cent decision or it's a multi-million-dollar decision. If there's a decision to be made, they're going to make it. And so you always want to be in the practice of making decisions. I was in my master's class, my grad school classes, and a lot of times we would have these 3-hour classes. And the professor would say, do you want to power through and get out of here early? Or do you want to take some breaks and be here the entire time? And I would always look around and kind of and see if anybody else is going to make a decision. And I realized most people they didn't want to make decisions because they were afraid to make decisions for the collective, but I didn't care. So I would say, yo, we're taking breaks. Or I would say, no, we're going to power through, whatever the case may be. But I'm not afraid. I wasn't afraid to make a decision because I want to get as close to happy as possible. So if I can only get 75% to happy, then I'll get 75% to happy. But what I'm not going to do is avoid the opportunity or ignore the opportunity to make a decision and have somebody make a decision for me. That's not going to happen. So what I'm telling you, make decisions, get in the habit of making decisions, and be confident. And it doesn't matter if the decision is right in the eyes of everyone else. You make it right. Make it right with your effort, and make it right by learning the lesson. That's how we make every decision the right decision, by learning the lesson. Now be responsible. Don't do irresponsible stuff and then on the back end say, well, I learned my lesson. That's not it. Be responsible, do good. But when you have to make a decision that maybe is a work decision, a professional decision, simply make your decision with all the, with your instinct and all the knowledge that is provided there. And then from there, if it's a little off, just make it right. The next thing we have to do is we fantasize. You have to intentionally fantasize about the goodness that will come from the decision that you made to reach this goal. So fantasize, put yourself in that good place. If there is a tall mountain that's as far as the eye can see, right? And I said, now I want you to go up this mountain. And you said, okay, cool. Is there a reward attached to it? And I said, nope. There's no reward at the top. There's no rewards on the way up. There's just climb the mountain. 9 times out of 10, you would say no. But if I say, listen, man, there's some small rewards on the way up, and then there's a grand prize at the very top. Now, all of a sudden, all depending on what that grand prize is, you might giddy up, put your hiking boots on, and get going. So what I'm telling you, put yourself in a good place before you take on this daunting task and attack fantasizing. Think about the house, the car, the life, the wife, the husband, the whatever you put you in a good place. Think about that, because it's going to help you get in a good place before you jumpstart this incredible task. And they say sometimes the things that you want the most probably are going to require the most rigorous pathway, right? So with that being said, in order for you to feel good about what you're doing and go through this gauntlet of exercises and obstacles, you better feel good about it. So once you feel good about it, you fantasize about it, the next thing you're going to do is have this reality check with yourself. And the reality check is where you ask yourself, what are you willing to sacrifice for what you want? What do you have to take out of your life? You know what I'm saying? Is it social time? Is it fast food? Is it cigarettes? Is it bad relationships? What are you willing to sacrifice? And then what are you willing to add? Are you willing to get up a little earlier? Are you willing to read a little bit more? Are you willing to go back to school? Maybe you weren't a great student in school, but you realize that you need more education to get from point A to point B. So what are you willing to sacrifice to get what you want? If you're not willing to have that sacrifice now, in the mind and in the spirit, you'll never be able to have sacrifice in real time. People who don't think about the sacrifice in the mind and don't feel the sacrifice in the spirit, when they get hit with the real time moment in which they have to now sacrifice in the physical world, their body goes to shock, they can't do it. And look, I'm already up. I got 4 minutes left, so you will definitely be getting 2 podcasts. So you have to be willing to sacrifice in the mind and in the spirit first, and you have to feel what that sacrifice is going to feel like, so that when you have to go through it in the physical world, you've already been there. You know what it feels like. You know how to sacrifice, what it's going to feel like, how much it's going to hurt, how uncomfortable you're going to be. And then you also understand or feel the breakthrough that comes as a result of the sacrifice. So that's the reality check. So if we got 4, we're up to 4. You wonder first. That's when you start to think and daydream and kind of think about all these different things you want to do. Then you make a decision. You make a decision and decide, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. This is how much it's going to take. You create a definite chief aim, all right? The next thing you do is you have your fantasy phase. And that's where you think about all the cool things that will take place as a result of you meeting your goals, right? Don't let anybody discourage you from fantasizing. It's a very essential part to you reaching your goals. The next thing we do is you have the reality check. And the reality check is simply feeling and thinking about the process of going without in order to achieve what you want. Because if you can't sacrifice in the mind and in the spirit, you'll never be able to sacrifice in the physical world. The next phase is what I call productive paranoia, and it's not my concept. This is Jim Collins' concept. He is a business guru. He wrote Good to Great, Why the Mighty Have Fallen, and there's another book that escapes me, but his concept is productive paranoia. And productive paranoia is when you think about everything that could possibly go wrong, and then you come up with solutions to negate those potential problems. So here's you're still in the phase in which you're thinking about this whole process, right? You haven't done anything, so you're thinking about what could possibly go wrong. What could possibly go wrong? And then from there, you start thinking about all the ways in which you can resolve those solutions beforehand. And so that may require reading. I got to read up on who has done what I'm working to do and what did they come across. I can Google it. I can read up on it. I could YouTube it, whatever the case may be. I could interview people who have been where I want to be, who have gone where I want to have gone, and ask them, what were some of your roadblocks? What were some of your obstacles? What were some of your solutions? And I got to look at, this is your solution, but I might not have, your solution was money. I don't have the money. So I got to come up with other ways in which I can do that. Okay, your solution was, you had a big family, you had a lot of brothers and sisters, and you had a lot of family involvement that helped you out. Well, I'm an only child, so I got to come up with another solution. So basically, you look at all the people who have done everything that you want to do, and you look at all the challenges that they had, and then you figure out, how can I use my resources to negate those problems? And you not only want to have these remedies locked and loaded, so that when the challenge presents itself, you're not only accurate, but you're efficient, you're timely. Time matters. Time matters. It's okay to take your time and get to point A to point B when you get there, but every now and then it's something to get in there early. So listen, I'm done with this podcast. I'm going to load this one, publish it, and then I'm going to come right back with part 2 of the dreaming process. So we're on step 5. We got 3 more steps. I'll review the first 5, and then I'll continue and figure out and tell you the last 3, and then we'll be done for the day. So I'll be right back. Oh, and by the way, this is that song, Donny Hathaway. I'm singing that song to you. So I'll just let this ride out.
Came out in front when I was hiding.